Good morning, everyone. I'm sorry about the delay. There seemed to be a little bit of a glitch on the Facebook Live app, but we finally got there. So today I wanted to talk about the how we can actually develop great strategies and getting greater grades on your English language exams. So, what I've thought about is the way we prepare for exams as students, and I suppose as teachers, the way we prepare students. What you have to remember is that when teachers are taking a class of children, they're preparing a whole group of students for an exam. Slightly different to um, coaching, where you will sometimes take much smaller groups or even individuals and try to improve their performance. Now, a lot of exam taking involves a great deal of psychology, and the psychology of an exam is something that we get hung up about, but we don't really understand it. There are a few myths about what is good for students when they go into an exam, and hopefully I'll dispel those. So we'll start with the myths. So, for instance, when students go into the exam, they will be absolutely sort of nervous or tense because they believe the exam, and rightly so, is an important aspect of their future life. So there's a lot of pressure on students the moment they walk into that exam room. However, with English GCSE, which is my area that I teach students, one of the things we know for sure with the English language papers, that's the AQA board papers, we do know that all the questions on the paper will actually be the same. The format of those questions will not change. And I sometimes get a lot of contact from parents saying, what tips can I give to their children who are revising for their English exams? And one of the things that they seem to think is helpful is to just go over many, many exam papers and just practice exam papers. Yes, that will help to an extent. The familiarity will help. However, it doesn't really teach you how to become good at those exams. It's a bit like, again, a sport as an analogy. If you have the wrong technique for, say, a stroke in a tennis game, your backhand is wrong. By just constantly doing backhand, you're not going to improve your performance. So, in the same way with English language, we need to start considering the approach that students have in their exams. If you do the same thing, you get the same results. So we have to keep looking at changing and looking at different options. Now, I'm quite a strong advocate of thinking out of the box in when we do exams. For instance, the myth I wanted to dispel was that there's a lot of talk about the exams, say English Language Paper 1 in AQA, which is the creative writing exam, and that the students really should do a quick question first to get them in the mood. Well, actually, if that's not necessarily true. The last thing you want to do when students' adrenaline is really, really high is to get them to do a very small question that offers only 4 marks at the start. My feeling is that, and from evidence and research, is that students' adrenaline is very high. Therefore, they need to have time to settle into a question. And the best way to do that is to go to the very end of the exam paper and do the large question 5, which is a creative writing question. And this is something that they can prepare for and be ready for. And it gets them into the right mindset. You see, my feeling is that we do question 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, all back to front. And my strategy is that the way you get control in the exam is to control the time. But when you first go into an exam, you think you're wasting time every second that you're in there. And this makes students do very irrational things. For instance, they'll go to question one, which is a 4 marker, and they want to get it right. It's their first question. So they spend enormous amount of time trying to do a good first question. But then they're uh, wasting time to an extent because they probably do that question in about 4 or 5 minutes. When in fact, if you did it the other way around, you would probably be able to do the question in less than a minute, probably 20, 30 seconds, because you've gone through the whole exam. And again, you think about English language paper one, you have to read a source. Now, when you do question one, students will take a shortcut. They'll go straight to the source. They'll look at lines 1 to 5, and they will then try to get the answers from that 1 to 5. The problem is, once you start dipping in and out of the source, you're missing the whole feeling of the source. So what I would do on my strategy is you start with question 5, which is an essay, which is loosely linked to the theme of the paper, but in fact is not necessary to have read any source or any of the questions to do the creative writing assessment. And you have two choices. You have a picture that says write a description or write a story suggested by the picture, or you just get a one-line picture like write a story called Abandoned. Now, that you need time to figure out why question 5 is such a big mark. We also need to understand that section B, as it's called, which is only one question, so be it a choice between two options, the examiners are assessing the quality of the writing. The rest of the exam is the quality of the reading. So my feeling is that if you do question 5 first, you are now, this is your showstopper. If any of you have ever seen the British Bake Off, it's when the people who are baking are going to present all the techniques and knowledge they've learned so far in showcasing their ability on a task. So it's the same in the English language papers. Both question 5s are the result of, they should be the result of 2 years of learning about writing techniques such as structure and language, etc., etc., and you showcasing that as a student in your writing. And this time it's the examiners that would like to find the techniques in your writing. So it's about knowing what the examiner wants. Now, once you've done this, I have suggested times, and people can go on my website and they can contact me and they can find out my actual exam strategies. But the principle is that if you spend quality time on a 40 marker, that's over 50% of the marks. Now, by the time you've done that, your brain has woken up, you've read, you've then got your mind thinking on a break after question 5. And the break is to take hold of the source and allow yourself 10 minutes reading time on the source. Now, this sounds like a lot of time, but in fact, in the actual paper, the AQA cover page, it does advise that 15 minutes should be used for reading alone. And that doesn't just mean reading the questions, it means reading the source. So once you've done question 5, you then need to sit back and change the pace and allow yourself 10 minutes of reading time. And then when you've read the source, you can then look at question 4, where the source in AQA language paper 1 is about a portion of that source from halfway through it to the end. And then you can reread the source with that in mind, and so on and so on. So you can actually start working your way through the questions back to front. And by the time you reach question 1, honestly, the strategy I've said allows you 4 minutes to do question 1. In fact, by the time you get there, you might be able to do it in 4 seconds. So there's a lot of psychology and preparation we can do. But the most important preparation we can do as students for the GCSE language papers is to understand there are only a total of 10 questions for you to be able to understand to pass your GCSEs. Now, the format doesn't change. So even though you go into the exam thinking this is a new exam, it isn't. It isn't a new exam. The questions and their format does not change at all. And if we learn the formats of those questions and how to do those questions, that's how you revise. That's how you prepare for your exams. Then you can go to some old papers and look at doing some of the questions that are big markers and finding out how you can incorporate all the techniques and elements that the examiners are trying to find from you. So when we talk about how to improve performance, is to be like a sportsman. Start taking control of time in your time management in the exam. Allocate a set amount of time per question, whichever order you do it in. But make sure you're not jumping in and out of the exam paper. If you do it from the front to the back, which is what I call the standard way, you actually spend the first question looking at lines 1 to 5. And then the second question is a language question, and you get a uh, delegated piece of an extract from that, which is shown to the students. And again, it's another part of the extract. So from question 1 and question 2, the temptation is not to have read the source at all. But yet, when you get to structure question on question 3, it does ask for the whole source. Now, this means you might have to read the whole source, and you've only just at this point, when you've done question 1 and 2, you've only covered 12 months, 12 marks of the paper, and there are 80 marks. So you are wasting time by jumping in and jumping out. But if you allocate time for the whole exam, which is 1 hour 45 minutes, that is actually 105 minutes. So this is my strategy for doing the exam. When you first go in the exam, just relax, go in and scan the papers for 2 minutes. Then go straight to question 5. Don't even look at the source, but go to question 5 and look at the essay question and crack on. Allow yourself 40 minutes. And then by the time you've done that, that's 42 minutes have already been used. You've got the 63 minutes left to do the rest of the exam. So you spend 10 minutes reading, so that leaves 53 minutes. You then allow 22 minutes doing question 4, which leaves 31 minutes. You then do 10 minutes for question 3 for the structure question, which leaves 21 minutes. You then do another 10 minutes for the language question on question 2, which allows 11 minutes actually to do question 1, but it will take you little time. And then you can, when you finish all these questions, you can go back and check over the whole paper. Now, look, this makes sense. This is taking control of the exam rather than the exam taking control of you. Anyway, I really would appreciate any feedback you want to give me on this video. I do have a website that you can go to, and you'll see it on the actual format of this video at the end. So please contact me. Would appreciate your feedback and any other comments. I am also trying to begin a Saturday club for 4 students. It's called a Group 4 Saturday GCSE Forum, which is now along. There is a fee, but it's for students who are in year 11 only, and they can register on my website online, and then they can get involved with all the exam strategies that I teach to all my other students. Thank you very much for your time. I'm sorry about the delay earlier. There was a glitch on Facebook, so we're now back on track. Thank you very much.